All rise for the Honorable Judge Spice King.
Thank you, Bailiff. We will now begin proceedings for the case of People versus the Other Guy. Mr. Other Guy, I see you've been indicted with several charges today. You got anything to say for yourself, Buster?
Yeah. Why am I here?
I see nothing of you, Mr. Other Guy. Now, another stanky outburst like that, and I'm gonna have to hold you in contempt of court. Now, shut your face.
Your Honor, yes, the court recognizes me, thank you. Can we sit down now?
Oh, yes, sorry. Please be seated. Not you, Other Guy. Begin prosecution.
Mr. Other Guy, I noticed that you did not eat the meat lover's pizza that Marceline's playground graciously provided you. What's up with that?
Oh, yeah. I don't eat pizza.
Don't eat meat lover's pizza? Well, are you a meat hater, Mr. Other Guy?
If you say yes, we'll get this over with sooner.
Oh, what now?
I said say yes and let's wrap this thing up. I'm hungry.
Not you. Him. Meat hater? What the crap's that?
Does the very sight of me disgust you? Do you think that all of meat kind is somehow inferior to you, Mr. Other Guy?
What? Come on, that's crazy. I think all, people of your, composition are created equally.
Something tells me you would like to strangle me in front of all these good people, Mr. Other Guy.
What people? No, I don't know. I don't even want to touch you.
You cannot have it both ways, Mr. Other Guy. Either you are a meat lover or you are a meat hater. I rest my case.
Thank you, very good case. Now, defense, cross-perspiration.
What are we, sweating on each other?
No.
You mean cross-examination?
Mr. Other Guy, you are treading on black ice here, mister. Things about to get spicy. Defense, present your case.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Other Guy, you claim to have passed on a meat lover's pizza.
Yes, I don't eat pizza.
What happened to that pizza?
Still sitting there.
Are you going to eat it?
No.
Can I have it?
Sure.
Thank you. No further questions.
Well, okay. Looks like all our ducks are in a row then. He spoke. I believe we're all in agreement when we say it's your fault, but, you got anything to say for yourself, buddy boy?
Well, yeah, I do. Look, I was just sitting at the keyboard, and one of y'all goons brought me up pizza, and I just didn't want to get it on the keyboard. I mean, I pay good money for that crap, you know? I don't want to run.
Objection. He ain't supposed to be playing that piano unless I'm there to take the credit for what he writes. Because piano is a team sport.
Sustained. Let the jury recognize that there is no I in piano.
Yes, but there is a me.
That is enough out of you and your fancy read skills, sir. I'm going to have to hold you in contempt of court. Bailiff, please remove him.
Let's go, bro.
No, don't tase me, bro. Don't tase me, bro.
I believe I speak for everybody in the jury and all listeners when I say I find you guilty.
Of what?
Of being so freaking ugly, yeah.
Give him the electric chair. Who said that?
Well, that is a very good recommendation, and under normal circumstances, I would prescribe the electric chair. But seeing as we have no sponsor this week and funds are low, I'm going to have to bypass that and give you the acoustic chair.
The acoustic chair? What is that?
Oh, it's terrible. It's like the electric chair, but there's no electricity. It's like a wooden chair that you sit in, and it kind of squeaks every once in a while. And you'll sit there and you'll think about what you've done, mister.
And we are live. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the only show that keeps giving you all the things that you don't want at times that you don't want them at. This is just a regular show about the regular show, or as others know it, regular time. I'm your host, that guy with the awkward name, and we're not going to mention it, and that's okay. I hope you're here to have a regular time, because I am. Now, on the regular side of things, life update. I recently acquired a made in Japan 1986 Fender Contemporary Stratocaster with the System 1 tremolo, which is a mother to work on. But that's okay, because I've been wanting one of these things for a while, and I finally got a hold of one, and I gotta say, at first, I thought this thing sucks. But then I adjusted the pickup height and set the intonation on it, and I thought, this guitar is incredible. And it is, even with the cheap pickups in it. It is a fantastic guitar. The neck on it plays like incredibly well, just so well. I have a Goodell semi-hollow body that some of my interns seem to like to get a hold of and play. That sounds very, very good. It's such a good guitar. But the feel of this Stratocaster is completely different. The frets are smaller. They're still in good condition, but they're smaller. The neck is like a flatter neck, and it's just a completely different guitar. And it inspires you to play completely different things when you play. Awesome. I would, if anybody likes guitars or anything, I would highly encourage you to look into some of these 70s and 80s era made in Japan guitars, because I think the early 70s was the lawsuit era with maybe like Ibanez using a copy of the Gibson Les Paul headstock or something. That kind of raised a whole fuss, but it made me look into, well, I mean, I guess just coincidentally, I didn't really look into it, but coincidentally, I watch another channel on YouTube. I'm not sure what the channel name is, but they do a series called Kyoto Video. And this series shows a lot of OVAs, or original video animations, from the 80s. So you see a lot of 80s Japanese anime. But he was talking about Japan in the 80s hit basically an economic boom. And sometimes they teach this in middle school, high schools, in American history. After World War II, America started financially helping out Japan, and kind of overlooking some unsavory business practices to try to get them back to economic stability. And Japan in the 80s, that finally peaked in the 80s when Japan hit like this boom, and they were the second biggest superpower in the world behind the U.S. at the time. And there was, I mean, but they were a lot more into, I guess, the things that Japanese culture is into. But you've seen the stuff, the 80s Casio watches and all that. But there were a lot of cool guitars that had a lot of neat ideas coming out in the 80s coming from Japan. For instance, Fender didn't even make Stratocasters in the 80s. Well, for a lot of years in the 80s in America, they were all shipped overseas and outsourced. But the workers and the techs, when they got them back, I shouldn't even say the techs, but whoever oversaw production, when they got the Strats back from Japan, some of the stories say that the people cried because these guitars were so good. And that just kind of speaks to the craftsmanship of these things. Now, the electronics are not as good as what you would get in an American Strat, but the woodwork and the, I can attest, like, it is so well, it's such a well put together guitar, at least this one, and it plays just fantastically. And the cool thing is that there are sometimes different woods were used. Like there was like I think it's called Natu, Natu, something like that wood used, sometimes where mahogany would have been used. And sometimes these guitars, when they were leaving Japan, like if they were in a time crunch to get guitars out, they would be kind of mix and match wood parts. So you might get different woods on necks and stuff like that, which I think is pretty cool. I mean, it's kind of like you never know what you're going to get with these things. But I've very rarely heard bad stories about these Japanese Strats, or for that matter, there's other companies, like I think Tokai was one. I think some of the Ibanez, I'm not sure. There's a lot of these guitars that came, the electrics, especially the acoustics, people will make up, or they'll say, Martin Killers, this Yamaha's a Martin Killer, blah, blah, blah. It's a lawsuit guitar. I have heard those, and they are, for like what you would pay for them, at least at that time, paying for like a $200 guitar. Yeah, they were much higher quality than a $200 guitar. But to say that they're going to go and kill a Martin HD28 or D28, whatever, a D18, you're stretching it a little bit there. the acoustic instruments, they are better than, I don't know what they're going for now, but at the time they were a lot better than what you were paying for them. But they really, at least somewhat paled in comparison to something you'd get from somebody like Martin, who at the time, when I was in high school, this was kind of before the boutique guitar boom, like you got like Collings and Bourgeois and all those guys. They had just started putting out guitars at that time. Santa Cruz was about the biggest company that wasn't Martin, that was, known as like a real super awesome acoustic. But anyway, cool guitar that I got. And only thing is, it doesn't come with it didn't have the tremolo arm. It's actually missing a little bit. This System 1 trim, I want to replace it, but I cannot find a drop-in bridge for it, which means one that you can just take out the original and put the other one in without having to drill extra holes, because this bridge has an 80 millimeter spacing, and I don't think anything else outside of maybe, I think I read like a 96 Floyd Rose might fit. But at the same time, it's just like, that might be a hassle buying one of those and then trying to fit it in, still have to drill holes, and I don't know. But this System 1 tremolo, if you have one that's in good condition, crap, there's people paying $200-300 on the internet. I see. I mean, I looked up a bunch of different listings for these complete systems, $200-300 just for the bridge itself, because there's kind of these couple websites that own sort of like a duopoly, I guess that's a word, on the parts for these things, because they don't make them anymore and there's nothing else that is compatible with them. They're like, you're kind of stuck with that if you have a guitar that's got a System 1, unless you want to start drilling on the body of the guitar and everything. And all these little pieces, there's like 40 or 50 pieces to these daggum tremolo systems. And each one of them, I mean, just the little screws that go in to adjust the intonation, $7 a whop. The little fine tuner screws, that's another $7 a whop. The little springs that go in it, crap, you're talking $3 for each spring, and there's 6 of them. And it's just like constantly this ongoing thing. And it's like, man, maybe I'll just keep it and try to get maybe some locking tuners. And, I can't use the tremolo arm anyway. So anyway, I've rambled on long enough about that. I'm going to try to fix it up. I'm going to try to keep it maybe, hid away from, some of the people that work with me. Not so worried about I don't want any grease stains on the thing, and, that just kills the strings. But Schnapps, I'm not so worried about him. He usually takes good care of my stuff. But, just trying to keep it away from some people. Simon. Oh, excuse me. Anyway, let's get on to talking about the reason that we're here, and that's the regular show, Season 2, Episode 23, entitled A Bunch of Baby Ducks. Now, A Bunch of Baby Ducks, its original air date was June 6, 2011, and October 25th, 2011 in the UK. Had 2.33 million US viewers. Obviously, age rating of PG, which is most of these. Directed by Mike Roth, written and storyboarded by Kat Morris and Minty Lewis. Once again, Minty Lewis, can't praise her enough. Voice of Eileen. Eileen's just such I think initially she was an underrated character, but she's become such a fan favorite character, I think. Really well written character. Some odd quirks about her, but, I've probably talked about those in the past. The synopsis for this episode: baby ducks become attached to the boys, that's Mordecai and Rigby, and start imitating their behavior. That seems simple enough, but things to look out for in this episode. This is a very iconic episode of Regular Show. There are some Power Ranger homages here. Maybe a Voltron. I'm not sure. Voltron will be definitely later on, but there are definitely some Power Ranger homages here with the baby duck transformation thing. I hope I'm not giving too much away, but want to say, I guess, the baby ducks become return sub-protagonists, I guess, they are very well received, I guess, for whatever reason. And I'm not against the baby ducks. I don't have anything against them. I don't dislike them. I actually kind of like them, but I never got the big at least from this episode. This episode, it doesn't really do it. Well, I shouldn't say that. As far as initiating the baby duck craze, from what I remember, this one didn't do it for me. Now, that being said, they come back in a trilogy of episodes. There's one called Fully Grown Geese, and then there's another one called like Brilliant Century Duck, something. That might be my favorite episode in the entire series. And I shouldn't be giving that away, but that one, in my opinion, is that my phone? Uh-oh, I'm picking up electromagnetic signals in here. I better put that away somewhere else where I'm not having to take out all this. Oh, well, I guess I'll have to edit that out later. The little 60 cycle hertz or whatever. It won't be 60 cycles. Sure enough, there'll be lines running through my dialogue when I look in RX. Anyway, that Brilliant Century episode, it's probably going to be a 10 out of 10. I mean, from what I remember, I loved that episode. But just because of that alone, this episode, The Bunch of Baby Ducks, is, and plus a lot of other people like it. And I like it too. But for that episode alone, I think that this one deserves, close inspection. So before we move on, actually, I guess let's go ahead and look at the voicing. So the voice of Mordecai, Duck, and Super Duck is J.G. Quintel. Rigby is William Salyers. Pops, Benson, Muscle Man, that's Sam Marin. Eileen is Minty Lewis. Margaret and Mama Duck is Janie Haddad. And then Shelter Guy, Man 1 and Man 2 is our 6th Ranger, Roger Craig Smith. And then Duck Man and Man number 3 is Julian Holloway. And if I didn't mention him before, I may have, but on the Death episode, I believe he voices Death. Now, Julian Holloway is one of those voice actors that have been in a lot of different things. Probably not the level of Pat Fraley as far as number of gigs, but man, is he up there. He's been in several video games. He's also an actor, but a classical actor, like plays and stuff. So things of that nature. But some of the works you might be familiar with him on Dragon Age Origins. He is the title. He is the character of Desperate Refugee, Angry Farmer, and Redcliffe Captain. So there you go. He plays a lot of these side roles. Star Wars: The Clone Wars. He is Prime Minister Almec and Guard Number 2, whoever Guard Number 2 is. Who else does he play in regular show? Old Man Number 2, Grandpa Hanatronic. So that's a much later episode. Okay, that you're probably talking season 5 or 6, but he is on this episode though. So there we go. I can't find anything else that I think anybody would be readily familiar with. It should go to mention, I think, that he is a British actor. I believe he's British, so he's on a lot of British television, which, heck, that's right up my alley. But I'm not sure anybody else would have heard of, The Man from Haven, Young Winston, Shadow of the Tower, The Spy's Wife, Carry On at Your Convenience, Carry On Henry VIII, Take 3 Girls, Elizabeth R., Northwest Confidential, Ryan's Daughter. I mean, the list goes on, but I don't think anybody's, these are all stuff that came out in the 70s. Recently I would imagine he's slowed down a little bit, but, is what it is. So, before we move on to that, I'm going to quickly cut this off, and I'm going to look up the episode of Adventure Time. They may not be back with the new season yet. Okay, so there was not a new episode premiere. They're still showing reruns, but the rerun they showed on Cartoon Network was called To Cut a Woman's Hair. Not woman's hair, woman's hair. Yes, woman's hair. Cut a Woman's Hair, and that is the episode about there's a witch that captures Jake and sets on him or something, and she's not going to move until, she's balding, by the way, until Finn goes and steals one of the princess's hair and gives it to her. This episode of Adventure Time, I remember watching this one when I re-binged it. This is actually one of the earlier episodes that does have some of the more clever kind of mechanisms, I guess, behind it. There's a lot of episodes of Adventure Time where the people go and try to take things from the princesses. I just noticed that, or I just thought of that. But this is one where Finn's trying to go and get locks of hair from the princesses to make the witch a wig or something. And they all think that he's in love with them. And this episode is also popular, I believe, because this is the first time that Finn removes his hat And we find out like he's got like this really, really long blonde hair. And yeah, I would actually, if you're going to watch one of the earlier episodes, this one's not a bad one to watch. I'm going to compare the two episodes. The episode we're going over a regular show today probably is better though. Let's hope that let's hope that my opinion doesn't change by the end of this. So here we go. So the episode starts off with the birds chirping. We're at the park and the camera pans out, or either it's zoomed out from the house, and it kind of pans over to a fountain behind the house. And I think it's the same fountain that Pops was looking in the episode Dizzy, where he's all like, and he's looking at his reflection, and it's like, it's all refracted and everything. But anyway, the guys are going to clean it and they're complaining, and Rigby's like, why do we got to clean this anyway? I thought that's what the rain's for. And then Mordecai says a line that I think that Minty Lewis may have written. And I say that because the way that J.G. Quintel kind of expresses it or delivers the line, he says, I know, dude, but we just got to power through it. And that the way that he inflects his voice there, Minty Lewis, or Eileen says things like that a lot. We just have to power through it, Rigby, like kind of throws the voice up there. Anyway, so they're kind of getting a squabble about who's going to turn on the hose for whatever reason. And Mordecai's all like, take one for the team. Or Rigby's like, we're a team, so you go do it. And Mordecai says, take one for the team then. So they do rock, paper, scissors. Rigby loses, which will come into play maybe later this season or early next season, one or the other, in the episode First Day. Or maybe it'll be kind of a throwback, whatever. They play rock, paper, scissors in that episode too, Rochambeau. So Rigby loses. He's got to go turn on the hose. Mordecai turns off the fountain. And here we go. So I realized why Rigby didn't want to start the hose. When he said start the hose, he meant siphon the water out of the fountain. So sticking a hose down in there and then using pressure, creating a vacuum by sucking on the hose, creating less pressure outside of the hose when the water travels through it, using gravity also to siphon the water out of the fountain. People used to do it getting gas out of cars. They probably still do. I don't know. Yeah, and there's a great line. Rigby says, and he spits it out because some of the water gets bad. He goes, it tastes like how Muscle Man smells. And which is great because that's, character humor right there. We're building kind of that character type universe, character driven universe, I should say. And Mordecai's like, yeah, I know, dude, but check out all the free stuff. And it's like, there's a bunch of junk on the bottom of the fountain. There's it looks like a milk carton, a baseball, a cup that they give out fountain drinks in, a shoe. And then for some reason, there's these 4 baby ducks that are just sitting at the bottom of the fountain like they were underwater. And I don't understand why, but, good thing they were because, they kind of make the episode. So let's see what's going to happen. So they're like, their mom must have stranded them when you drain the fountain. So here, help me get them. And Mordecai tries to grab them, and they all run to one side of the fountain, and they end up chasing around the fountain for a few times. And Mordecai's like, get the bucket. So Rigby goes and gets the bucket. Mordecai takes a sheet and he goes, psh, 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 and then he scares the ducks into the bucket, and Rigby picks it up, and then they let him outside of the fountain, and the ducks don't go anywhere. And they're like, you ready? Mordecai says, ready to go back to work? And Rigby says, yeah. And he starts to walk back, and the ducks follow him a few times, and he can see they're kind of imitating or following him. And he says, I think they're following me. And Mordecai says, ha ha ha, they've imprinted on you. They totally think you're their mom. And, they kind of go on with that a few minutes seconds. And then Rigby, he gets frustrated, and he tries to kind of run and stomp his feet and turn around in circles and stuff. And he's like, quit following me. And Mordecai delivers a totally Beavis and Butthead or a Butthead line. What are you trying to do? Trying to teach him to suck at football or something? So that one, you'd have to work hard to convince me that that's not like a Butthead inspired line. Hey, Rigby, what are you trying to do? Teach him how to suck at football or something, So Rigby's kind of turning around and everything. He's frustrated, and he runs into Benson, and he's like, And Benson says, you guys ready to get back to work? Or because all it looks like to me is you're playing with a bunch of baby ducks. So, see? He did it. He said the title. It always takes me back. When somebody says the title of the episode or the show, it always takes me back to the Family Guy, the Peter, back when I actually was heavily into Family Guy. I've actually seen all the episodes up through season 20, but the early ones are the only ones I can seem to remember. Anyway, let's see what happens here. So Mordecai informs Benson that they have imprinted on Rigby, and Benson says they think that he's kind of, Captain Obvious. They think that Rigby's their mom. Haha, that's the funniest thing I've ever heard. Or that's the most pathetic thing I've ever heard. Something like that. Saddest thing, something. And Mordecai says, no, actually, somebody naming their kid Rigby is the most pathetic thing I've ever heard. And then he goes, just kidding. Seriously, we can't do anything with these ducks following us around. We got to babysit them. So Benson's like, okay, find them a home, but no slacking off. You still got to clean the park truck after work. So Rigby, how are we going to get rid of these ducks? And Mordecai says, easy, chicks. So I guess they're going to try to give them away to a couple of girls or something. But anyway, they go to the coffee shop. So you can guess it's probably going to be Margaret or Eileen or somebody. The baby ducks are, not bubby ducks, the baby ducks are sitting there on the table, and Rigby has some cereal at Cheerios or something. And the ducks actually go over and they like sit in his Cheerios, like they're like floating on the bowl of whatever. And it's actually kind of, I don't know why, but it's just kind of like, yep, I can see the charm of these ducks now, So the next part sets up kind of like a recurring baby duck motif, so to speak. Rigby's wanting him to get away, and he keeps going, step off, and he keeps like, step off, and he keeps like chopping at him like a karate chop, but he stops short of him. Like he's, I don't know what he's doing. Like he's going to hit him, but he doesn't. And he just step off. And Eileen comes over and says, oh, who's your baby buddies? Who are your little buddies, Rigby? And he says, more like little jerks. And I think that was edited out of the UK version, if I had to bet. But Eileen says, oh, look, he says, they knocked over my Cheerios. And Eileen says, oh, they made a little baby duck milk waterfall or something like that. And Rigby keeps going, rah, 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 like chopping in front of him. Margaret says, oh, they're copying you now. And then it cuts to the ducks, and they're like karate chopping, and they look all confused, but they just keep karate chopping. So, yeah, we're getting to the point where the ducks are copying at least Rigby. So they kind of throw in a few things here in like 10 seconds. So Eileen picks one of the ducks up and says, is Rigby ignoring you because you're still an ugly little duckling and not a beautiful swan yet, or something of that nature? And then they're like, when you take these ducks? And Margaret says, no pets allowed in my building. And then it cuts right back to Eileen. And she's laid the duck down. She's got spots all over. And she goes, and I'm allergic to duck dander. So, that was just like, really fast. But they said, okay, maybe the animal shelter. So now we're going to the animal shelter. So they go in and they go up to the guy at the desk and they're like, okay, we're looking, Rigby says, we're looking to get rid of these ducks. And Mordecai punches him in the face. He says, we're looking to find them a good home. And he goes, okay, you're going to fill out some paperwork. And he goes, are those ducks karate chopping each other? And they're like hitting, they're kind of, they are. And they're like, no, they're not karate chopping each other. And the dog that's sitting by the table walks over and they start chopping it. And apparently they beat the crap out of it because it runs back over there whimpering. And he goes, we can't take those. We can't take violent animals. And they said, what? They're not violent. They're just playing around. And the guy goes, those ducks are thugs. And they're like, some people would think that it's cool that they're karate chopping things. So they run over and they karate chop the leg of a table. It's got a snake terrarium or whatever on it. And somehow it breaks the leg of the table. The thing falls over, the snake crawls out, and then they all start beating the crap out of it. And you just get like one of those Homer Simpson looks from Mordecai, and then we see him leave the shelter with the ducks in pursuit. So they're totally worried about finding somebody to give a home to these ducks at this point. And they can't, but Rigby's like, don't worry, we'll find somebody. These ducks are totally cool. And he starts, gritting his teeth and like punching at them, like really terribly. But they said, look at that. They're not even flinching. And Mordecai says, that is pretty cool. And they're fast learners. And it cuts down to the ducks, and they're like, they're punching too. They're like doing really pathetic shadow boxing and chopping and pointing at each other. And so like, okay, we'll find somebody, surely. Video game break. So it wipes to them at the house, and they're playing some fighting game where one of the characters punches the other character like 15 times, like the ducks were doing. And it turns out the ducks are beating Rigby at video games, which is not really that ironic. And Mordecai's like, that's the third time in a row they've beaten you. And the ducks are all like, whoa. And it's really high pitched. They've modulated J.G. Quintel's voice to make him sound higher pitched. If they've just pitch shifted, is probably what they've done. But anyway, Rigby's like, it's not my fault. I told you this controller was busted. And the ducks are like, So they're picking up on the mannerisms of Mordecai as well. And Mordecai's like, I think these ducks are special. Maybe we should keep them. And then Benson said, what was that? Because he walks in the room. And Mordecai says, oh, Benson, I thought maybe we should keep looking for some people to keep these ducks. Yeah, something like that. He's like, have you guys cleaned out the fountain yet? And he's like, no, because we're trying to find a home for these baby ducks. And he goes, I don't care about that. Find a home for these ducks right now and go clean the fountain. You know, the whole spiel. And yeah, that's where we're at now. So up to this point, I think I've kind of realized why this episode is probably my least favorite of the baby duck episodes. And it's because they're building, like, I guess this lore with the baby ducks, but they're taking a whole bunch of different steps to do it. Like, nothing seems logical or streamlined. It's like they're throwing a lot of spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks. And good thing they did find something that sticks, though, because there's a lot of cool stuff that come from these baby ducks. But anyway, like, they decide, okay, here's how we're going to find a home. We're going to make flyers. And Ruby's like, no, we can't make flyers. The only people who see that is creepy old guys that come to the park. I'm like, okay, we got to do something. They're like, fine, we'll make flyers. So the scene wipes, and we've got a little baby pool, kiddie pool, sitting by the steps, and the ducks are floating in it, and Mordecai and Ruby are sitting on the steps, and a garbage truck drives up. This guy that kind of looks like Skips, but he's actually a human, steps out, and he's got yellow boots on, yellow vest, blah, blah, blah. Kind of looks like they're made of, like, duck fur. I think they're trying to get on with, like, the Cruella de Vil type, you know, character here. But he comes over, and he has a cooler, and he opens up the cooler. He says, I like the looks of these baby ducks. And Mordecai says, no. So, yeah. Rigby's like, okay, fine, we'll keep looking. So Rigby's sitting there floating around, and he's squirting water up at Mordecai, and the ducks start doing that. And they're like, maybe we should keep these baby ducks. Look, if we sit really still like this, we can keep them in the bathtub and tell Benson that they're rubber ducks. And then it cuts over to the baby ducks, and they're sitting real still. And he's like, you know what? That might work. And Rigby says, quick, come squeeze me so I can teach him how to squeak. And that was great. But then Pops comes out, and he's like, Mordecai, Rigby, there's a phone call for you. So they go inside, and it's Janie Haddad's voice on the other end. And it's, I saw your ad about the baby ducks. Are they small and yellow and fluffy? It's like, well, no crap. But anyway, I do love that they put that in there. It's like, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how to explain that humor, but yes, I mean, like, you either get that or you just don't find it funny at all. And I find that funny. And here's the great part. She's like, I leave the fountain for 1 minute. And Mordecai's like, dude, it's their mom. He puts his hand over the receiver, and he's like, what do we do? And he goes, tell her no. We done got the bathtub plan. And Mordecai's like, we don't know anything about raising baby ducks. And he says, how hard can it be? And Mordecai says, you can't even remember to feed yourself. Rigby's stomach growls and goes, I haven't eaten today yet. And he goes, I wonder what baby ducks eat. So, and Mordecai says, when can you be over? She goes, I'll be right over. And Mordecai, okay, we got to go feed them. So they go outside, and they see that this duck man is out there putting them in the cooler again. And they're like, hey. And he runs and throws the cooler in the back of the truck. It's actually like it's not a dump truck. It's like a containment cargo storage unit or something on the back of the truck. But anyway, as they're running down the steps, Mordecai slips in the kiddie pool and falls over, which is great. The way his eyes bug out, it's just, there's a lot of stuff. Like, the first several times I watched through this, I never really noticed that. But, like, there's a lot of times the way that they use his eyes to make humor in this show, which is great. But Mordecai goes and bangs on the window. And he's like, give us back our baby ducks. And the guy says, I believe you mean my baby ducks. Thank you for handing them over so easily. And Rigby jumps up on the windshield, and the duck man turns on his truck. And on the keychain is like a rubber duck looking, a little figure, which is a nice little touch. I mean, it's overkill, but it's great. And, he hits the windshield wiper, turns it on, and it hits Rigby, knocks him off. And so now we're going to be in hot pursuit of the duck man. Mordecai says, this isn't over. And then the duck mom flies in, lands in the kiddie pool. She says, where's my babies? Ruby says, that guy just took them. And she goes, she's like, oh no. And he's like, Mordecai's like, I'll get the cart. And she says, no time, get on. Like, she means like, here, I'll fly you to him. And he's like, I don't know if we should that much. She says, no time, get on. So he gets on, and he's like, hurry, Rigby, get on. He's like, I'm not sitting behind you. He says, dude, just get on. He says, I'll play rock, paper, scissors for it. So they take the time to play rock, paper, scissors. Of course, Rigby loses. He gets on, and then the duck starts to like walk really slowly. It's almost a really awkward looking like transition, just because Mordecai's eyes once again are just so big and it's like so slow. She takes off flying. She's like, "Where are they?" They're like, "There he is," and she flies them to the truck. They land on top of it, and they're running across the top. And for some reason, this duck guy has his passenger window open. Mordecai flies through and kicks him in the face, and he starts fighting Mordecai. But then Rigby flies in and punches him. And Rigby starts like bashing his head against the steering wheel. That guy punches Rigby, and then Mordecai comes over and punches him. It's actually a really well done fight sequence. And then eventually, a few things happen. The truck turns sideways, fishtails or whatever, and then they flip the truck, and it bashes through the fountain that they were cleaning. Okay, they come out of the truck. The guy does the Don Fry or whatever it is, the thing where he flips him over his back. He kicks him over the top of him, but over the back, and then they have this big fight sequence, and I gotta say, this might be the first episode of regular show I've seen a fight sequence like this, but this is really kind of par for the course for what a lot of these fight sequences on the show look like. Like, this show does a very good job at choreographing fight sequences and keeping them flowing smoothly and throwing in like these homages to old kung fu shows and just a lot of very interesting looking fight sequences. And I really wish there were more because it's one of the best things that this show does, in my opinion. I mean, it doesn't do it as often as it should. I think they should have utilized that more because they did a fantastic job. I think every time I saw one, I may be a little bit off, but I'm thinking of the Death Kwon Do episodes. I'm thinking of this one, the one where Skips takes them all to the top of this mountain. I'm giving away a lot of stuff, but the mama duck flies in and she starts pecking on the top of his bald head, and he does that thing that Rafiki does on Lion King where he punches behind him with his back fist and knocks her off of him, and it like almost knocks her out cold. She's like laying there, and then he comes up with like this cane, and it looks like he's about to unsheath it. I'd say there's a blade in there. I've got it paused though, so let's find out. So it is a blade, and he goes, "I'm taking those baby ducks," and he's approaching Rigby with it, and Mordecai's like, "Rigby," and it looks like there's nothing that they're going to do, but then the ducks get red glowing eyes, and they do something that's reminiscent of a Mighty Morphin Power Rangers morphing scene. But in Power Rangers, they did it one at a time. Tyrannosaurus, Mastodon, Saber-tooth Tiger, Pterodactyl, Dragonzord, all that. Did it one at a time where they're holding up the morphers. This time it's in quadrants of the screen. So there's 4 split screens. And I think they should have had a 5th duck to make the tip of the hat a little bit more complete. The color, the Black Ranger is not represented here. There was red, blue, green, yellow, and pink was also not represented. So maybe they should have had pink, either one. But I think that kind of comes into play in one of the later episodes because they're like, "It's our long lost baby brother duck." And so there's one more they add, I think, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong about that. But anyway, I am thinking of the Brilliant Century episode is the one I'm thinking of that has the obvious reference to the Megazord sequence, which is one of the best scenes in this whole show. I absolutely love that scene. I will show it to my kids in class and watch it over and over and over, and it cracks me up. It's so serious but so hilarious at the same time, and it's unexpected humor too. So, and it's actually poking fun at the Megazord. Like, it's gonna be a while, but like, Pops is part of the Megazord, and his Zord looks like his head, okay? And it's got the mustache, and he's flying it, but by the time it makes it to the Megazord, the whole head dissolves, and the little mustache is just like a piece that goes on the sword or something, like the hilt, and that's his whole contribution. It's something like that, and that's kind of like the pterodactyl, the pterodactyl on the Megazord. Like, the pterodactyl flies in there and, it does all this stuff, but everything folds in and it's just a little chest plate, or the Mastodon's head is like a shield, just, I always kind of found that funny too, but I think they're poking fun of that, but like, such a creative way to do it. And just the reactions of the characters. But anyway, this Megazord sequence, it's not really a Megazord. Like, the ducks fuse together to make one really giant duck that doesn't have a shirt on, but it's got like an eagle head, and it's wearing blue jeans, and it just goes, "Step off," and then it chops the guy, and the guy like that's like a nuclear explosion looking mushroom cloud type thing. He blows up, pretty much cuts him in half with the giant eagle hand or duck hand or whatever, and that's kind of reminiscent of the Megazord, the little sword strike at the end, you know. So this is kind of like one of those sped up episodes of Power Rangers or like Digimon, where everything like digivolves really fast, you know. But because they were running short on airtime, so they had to just kind of get rid of all the, they didn't need to fill any time, so But they, that's kind of like what some of the episodes of Power Rangers would go like. They would morph so fast, get in the Megazord, and it would take them maybe 30 seconds. And then they would just cut the guy down, maybe punch him twice or whatever. Sometimes that's what the episodes were like. But that's what this is like. And right after they do that, they defuse, which is kind of a cool looking effect because it's like these pink looking outlines of the giant duck. So anyway, we find out that, Deus Ex Machina, that these ducks have that power, and that's going to serve them well in the future. And there's basically no explanation given for that. They're like, all right, see you guys, have a good life. I mean, it's pretty much just kind of goes overlooked. They don't, it's kind of like, reminds me of when Rob and I do Turtle Tales, like all of the Turtle Tales issues and the Ninja Turtles, they always end with the bad guy pretty much gets killed and they're like looking at him from over a cliff or, like down in like it's always like some chasm or something, where the bad guy's fallen down from basically trying to overzealously destroy the turtles. They've fallen from their own, sometimes it's like Leonardo might throw a star and knock the Rat King down in like this chimney chute or something, but it's usually from a fall and it's like a really tall fall. And the last frame or so panel is usually the turtles looking down and they're just like, yep, let's go home. They just turn around and walk off. And I mean, that's how a lot of those Turtle Tales issues ended. And that's kind of what this is like. It's just like, well, see you later, guys. Have a good day. Glad you found your mom. And then one thing that does happen though, Ruby's like, remember what I taught you, how to do high fives. And they all give him high five. And Mordecai says, remember to practice your video games if you ever want to make a living at it. And as the ducks are walking around, one of them turns around and says, hey, Mordecai. And we find out that they can talk now. Thanks for being, Mordecai and Rigby, thanks for being the coolest losers we know, or something like that. And they all go, whoa. And then the Mordecai and Rigby going, whoa. And it's just J.G. Quintel's voice, pitched up, like I said. But they fly off and Benson walks up. He doesn't say a word. They say, oh, Benson. And they're at like this carnage scene. I mean, like the trucks flipped, the fountain's wrecked. The guy's like, probably, it doesn't show him on screen, but he's probably laying there cut in half, and everything. They're like, Benson, we got some good news and some bad news. The good news is the baby ducks found their mom and they're going back home. The bad news is the fountain's wrecked. So we're going to need another chore. You got anything else you need cleaned? Benson doesn't say a word. He just turns around and walks off. And it's great because I think in one of these other episodes, like, Benson actually does tell him off because of the baby ducks. And then the mama duck comes back and like chews out Benson. So it's, yeah. But the main end of this episode really is it takes a while to build up to it. I mean, it feels like it takes a while to get traction on this episode, but I can see why it's so iconic because it sets up these recurring characters that don't just come back for the trilogy of episodes. They're actually in, I think, at least a couple more episodes. They're kind of like Death. Death, maybe not in as many episodes as Death, but they're probably more iconic to the regular show than Death is, though. I mean, now I will say, I can't remember what the full-grown geese episode. I remember what happens, but the Brilliant Century episode, that is kind of, they go full ham with this homage to the Power Rangers and Voltron and Neon Genesis Evangelion. Even the opening. The opening has, I think, the only alternate opening intro sequence out of the whole series. And it's like this song, and it's an anime type opening, and it's very reminiscent of like Evangelion. And, you got the characters staring off into the sunset and the duck Zords kind of parked, and they're like kind of looking off into the sunset over the hills with it. And it's so iconic. It's great. It's almost as good as the King of the Hill Evangelion opening, which is fantastic. If you've ever seen Evangelion and you're a fan of King of the Hill, which I both, first time I saw that, I about flipped my wig. I thought this is the greatest creation because it parallels the opening to Evangelion so well. I mean, like when Evangelion shows something on the screen, it's like they show something related to King of the Hill that fits that whatever needs to be on the screen. Like instead of showing like the genetic code, they show like the DNA or something that they show in Evangelion. I think they show something like that. They show the molecular structure of propane on this one. But anyway, I'm getting off track. Go watch that though. It's hang on, I got to look up the name of it. Okay, so the name of this video on YouTube is Propane Genesis Evangelion, King of the Hill Anime OP. And it's just 1 minute and 31 seconds, but it is like so. Watch the opening to Evangelion, Neon Genesis Evangelion, which is one of the most iconic theme songs that if over in Japan, there's a whole culture. I mean, it's just like that is an iconic opening. That is like maybe the most iconic opening in all of Japan. And I mean, you can see why. It's a very, I think it's called Broken Angel's Thesis. It's a very good song. But concerts, the lady that does that, like she sells out concerts over there. And that's like, one of her biggest, songs that she does. So, people love that over there. And they recently released The End of Evangelion and all that a couple years back. And this show, what was his name? Hideaki Ani? Ani, Anni. I don't know or remember the other name, but Ani. Notorious for like, he did Evangelion and then they ran out of funding for the show and then came back and did some of the movies. And then they started like it was like a reboot, I still don't exactly know the thing around it. It's like all of these things fit into this, almost like a multiverse of parallel timelines that kind of interlope with each other and influence each other. And like you can feel when you watch these final movies that came out, which had like years and years and years between like 1.1, 1.2, whatever. I mean, I think one of them had like maybe a decade between part 3 and 4. Like it was so long to get these out. But you watch them and you can kind of feel the actions of all these other movies, I guess, in alternate timelines or something, having effects on these timelines. It's really weird. I mean, I still don't exactly know how all of these things interact with each other. I just know, like, as far as from an artistic standpoint, like, these last 4 were made in response to the impressions that we had of the first ones, which is kind of how art is. It's kind of, I don't want to say backlash, but counterclash or resistance against the revolt against the generation before it. But this is like a commentary or a response to the impressions that we have as a viewer of the same series that came before it. And it's just really cool. I mean, I'm not saying it ended the way I wanted it to end, but anyway, it's an iconic series, and it's same guy that did Fooly Cooly or FLCL, whatever, FCLC, whatever. I don't, but yeah, it's very thought provoking anime. A great, I guess, all of the scenes, just the music and everything. Golly, the escapism that's kind of built into that. Anyway, I don't have enough time to talk about that show. I mean, I really don't. That's just so much that can go with it. Anyway, the King of the Hill version of that opening is great, and also is the regular show opening. But I will say that this regular show opening, which is season 8, I believe, it's not a direct like parallel. It's just like inspired by, you can tell. But it's a great opening for the regular show. I honestly, I kind of wish that it was the opening all the time because it's just like that good in my eyes. But the baby ducks, my point is, that's a whole long ramble, and I'm sorry, but that's a big, long ramble about how the baby ducks kind of set up the things, or the things that I like about the baby ducks. And they do get pretty cool. This episode, I don't think really did a whole lot of justice because I don't think they really knew what they wanted to do with the baby ducks at this point. I think this was just, they planned on this maybe being like a throwaway episode. Hey, we're going to throw some Power Ranger stuff in here, put an action scene. And then I think maybe they thought eventually at one point, maybe like in the drawing room or whatever the idea is, they thought, maybe let's bring the baby ducks back. Okay, yeah, okay. And then that second one, I think, got better reception. And then the third one, okay, we got to bring the baby ducks back and we got to make it huge. Or actually, I think probably what happened with that last one was, okay, and I'm kind of giving away a little bit here, but our toys really suck. So let's make an episode about that. I think, yeah, our merchandise, the regular show merchandise, they're really horrible. Let's make an episode about that, breaking the fourth wall. Hey, let's throw the baby ducks in while we're at it, you know? So that last one, though, I mean, it is such a fantastic episode. But anyway, this episode I would give probably about a 6.5, a 6 maybe. I realize that's lower than we've been getting, but I got to put maybe an asterisk beside that because without this episode, we wouldn't have 2 superior episodes, and one being maybe the best in the entire series, in my opinion. Like the high point of the series, maybe. Besides, maybe like the finale was really good too. But this, I think that episode might be the 10 rated episode for me. So I don't know. Without this episode, though, we wouldn't have that one. So this is kind of the one I think that kind of takes one for the team, like Mordecai says in this episode. It is iconic and it deserves to be. I don't think the structure of the episode is the best. I don't think it's, in fact, I think structure-wise, this episode, I'm not saying the writing's bad because there's a lot of loose pieces that by themselves would be good, but they just kind of seem to float around. Or maybe it's that they're connected, but they just come from so many diverse places. It's you know, it's like, where are we going to go? And I probably shouldn't even say that because usually I like things like that. I usually like things that are just random. Hey, let's go here. Hey, let's go there. Hey, let's go here. Let's connect them all some way. Hey, this time a lot of times that works out. This time for me just doesn't seem to work out. The first half, maybe 3/4 of the episode, it just doesn't seem regular show-esque, I should say. Maybe in another show, it would seem like, okay, like in Aqua Teen, this random off-the-wall stuff, it would seem right at home. It just doesn't feel like they executed that all that well in this episode of the regular show. Now, the last quarter of the episode with the fight scene and the little baby duck Mighty Morphin thing and all that, that's pretty cool. Some of Benson's reaction, not Benson, he's benching. Yeah, he's doing that bench press. Some of Benson's reactions in this, they're pretty good. If we could have, and I realize it's a joke that the baby ducks can talk at the end, but like, I don't know. I think the whole thing with just them wanting to imitate Rigby, they kind of played on that for a little bit too long. Just everything was about them imitating Rigby, and I get that, but I don't know. There was just something missing. I may even need to take back what I said about, okay, it's all these random things that were thrown at the wall and kind of loosely connected. It's probably not even that. It just felt like it was missing something. And I don't know what that is. So glad this episode came out, though, because without it, we wouldn't have my favorite episode. So, yeah, I've said that about 100 times now, probably at least 3 times. That's about all I've got. So, quite frankly, this episode might be around tied with that episode of Adventure Time, probably. But, Bands, this is the premiere episode. I probably would have wanted to watch this episode more when it aired than I would have the Adventure Time episode. I probably would have been jazzed about this episode, honestly, you know. I mean, maybe the thing with this is I've seen this episode several times in the past, and it doesn't. That's the thing with rewatching this series over and over and over. If the episode doesn't have like these, once you've watched it so many times, if the episode doesn't have these just real standout moments, you find yourself less inclined to want to watch it for a couple playthroughs until you kind of thoroughly forget everything. Then you can go back and discover some of the smaller, more subtle details about the show. That might be what it is with this episode. There's nothing really that super stands out as being hilarious or anything like that. The main attraction here is the baby ducks, So I hope you enjoyed the episode if you were watching it for the first time. And if you ranked this episode higher, then, good for you. Let's see. Next episode. It is, I think it's More Smarter is the one it's called. I think that's the one. Let me make sure, though, because that one is one that I never seemed to, it seemed like it was about on par with this one. It's like, it's not really blah. But the more I watch it, the more it kind of grows on me. There's just certain things about yes, it's More Smarter. So I'm thinking, honestly, I might like that one better than I like this one, which would not have been the way in the past. I forgot. Let's look at the trivia for this episode. The pop culture references and the episode connections trivia. A Flash game was based on this episode at Cartoon Network released. That's cool. Winging It is what it was called. This is the first appearance of the baby ducks and their mother. No pets are allowed in Margaret's residence. She said that Eileen is revealed to be allergic to duck dander. Yeah, we mentioned that. Let's see, episode connections. This episode marks the first of a series-wide Baby Ducks trilogy, followed by A Bunch of Full-Grown Geese in Season 4 and Brilliant Century Duck Crisis. That's it. Brilliant Century Duck Crisis Special. That's a great name. That's totally anime name, like Bubblegum Crisis, Brilliant Century Duck. That's just awesome. Season 6. I think Season 8 might have been the space season. Using the power, Rigby previously sent a bunch of baby ducks, though not the same ducks as seen in this episode, to the moon. Remember, a bunch of baby ducks, send them to the moon. So, I kind of wonder how the production of this went, though. Hey, whatever happened to those baby ducks? Well, I don't know. Let's make a story about baby ducks. And then later on, they decided, no, we can't make them the same baby ducks that went to the moon. But if they went to the moon, maybe that's where they got their powers. Who knows? Pop culture references. The transformation sequence of Baby Duck is based on the Megazord transformation sequences in Power Rangers. Eileen references the classic Danish folktale, The Ugly Duckling, by asking the baby duck, is Rigby mad at you because you're not a beautiful swan yet? Okay. Alternate versions. In Australia, Rigby says more like where Rigby's saying more like little jerks and the coffee shop is cut out. Okay. Scene where Rigby is bashing the duck collector's head and the steering wheel is changed to Rigby pulling the duck collector's hair. All right. Alternate animation. That's cool, I guess. That's all I got, though. If you made it this far, appreciate it. Thank you for listening, as always. Last time I checked, I think maybe there's one more listener. So that puts us at a total of 2. I think maybe a total of like 21 or something. I don't know. But I'll take one. We may be topping out. This may be an elite club of the few and the proud, I guess. I don't know. Unless people start sharing, because I'm trying to find Facebook groups and stuff to share this to. It's just it's hard to get people to listen. Oh well. In the future, might have some stuff coming out. I think Rob messaged me the other day. I got to tell this story. Stupid me. I've been giving some watches away because I have some, and you can only wear one watch. And I stopped by his house, and because I was over that way, it's probably an hour, maybe an hour and 10 minutes to get to his house from mine. But I'm talking Rob Luther from Turtles Forever and Retro Junkies. But I stopped by to give him a watch and I let him pick out, because I had a few of them. I'm like, here, pick one. Just pick the one you want. And he goes inside. He's like, his mother and her husband were there, and he's telling his wife and everybody. He's like, guys, look, Kirkland brought me this watch for my birthday. I'm thinking, oh crap, I didn't even know it was his birthday. So I had to tell him that, though. I was like, Rob, I didn't know it was your birthday, man. I was just giving you a watch. So that's kind of crappy of me. I didn't know it was his birthday. But to be fair, I don't have a birthday. I have a Spirit Journey formation anniversary, like Master Shake says. But birthday, man, it depresses the crap out of me. It's just another year around the sun trip around the sun that I haven't done anything worth talking about. But anyway, we got to talking, and I think he's wanting me to do a character on Retro Junkies. Can't give away too much, but like that's a podcast he does, and that's one I really enjoy listening to because just talking about all the retro things growing up. But he's got some skits that he's created. I think he wants me to be a character, and I've come up with some ideas and some rants and stuff for this character. So I'm pretty excited about that, and we're coming up on the season finale. We may or may not have some special guests or guests on here. Maybe not. Maybe so. One thing's for sure, these freaking interns annoy me. With that being said, thank you for listening. Any shares, likes, follows, all that jazz would be appreciated. And till then, see you next time.